Hello, NuPIC. This is the NuPIC Development Progress Review for March 20th, 2015. I'm Matt Taylor. On my left, Sue Timon. We have Austin Marshall on my right. Scott, Purdy, and Chayden Surfer are out of the office today, so it's just us. And on the phone, we have David Ray from Portable.io, who is the tech lead of HTM.java. We also have Celeste Brinsky, who's off camera. So first of all, we just had, I want to say something about a couple meetups. If you're watching, we have a meetup coming up next week on Wednesday in the Bay Area. It's at Moffett Field near Sunnyvale. There's info on our meetup page, meetup.com/Numenta. So I think there's still space available. They expanded it seems. So there's already 40 or 50 people RSVP'd. That should be a good time. A lot of people I know are going to be there, so interesting stuff. We'll do some demos and should be fun. And we just finished up a meetup on Tuesday in New York City at Cornell Tech, where Jeff gave a presentation on what the brain tells us about machine intelligence. That went really well. We had a lot of nice engagement from that audience. I recorded some audio, so emailed the NuPIC Discuss list with a link to the audio if you want to take a listen. And the meetup page also has Jeff's slide deck. So there's that. So before I get to the roadmap and open PRs, in the spirit of open source design work, I am going to show you what one of our Numenta front-end engineers has been working on for Numenta.org. He's been working on a complete redesign of our NuPIC website. So he's moving into the implementation phase for this, but this is basically a design. He's done a very modern design with a mobile-first focus. So this is the widescreen desktop version of it, but he's got it so it snaps automatically into the right shape and position of all these elements. If you're looking at it on a mobile phone or a small tablet or a large tablet or a desktop, it will all look nice. So we're going to have a nice facelift coming up for Numenta.org. And I have talked to him. His name is Brev Patterson. He works for Numenta as a front-end engineer. He's fine. If anyone in the community is interested in front-end work, wants to help write out some of the code, there's a lot of CSS and HTML work as well as JavaScript to make this work. So if anyone is interested in helping, you can contact Brev at bpatterson@numenta.com. Oh, or me, or the mailing list, whatever. I will make sure he gets your message. So this should be really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
And Matt, you really mean it when you mean we're open source design. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, what did you think?
I think it looks awesome.
I thought it looked great.
I think the old one has definitely gotten stale.
It has.
A couple of years old.
Well, it took me a whole 10 minutes to design that. So Brev's put a lot of thought and effort into this, and I'm very happy with what he's come up with.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
It would be a good thing. Okay, so moving on to roadmap here. Let me figure out how to work a computer. Okay. Okay, so upcoming work on the roadmap. I still have a couple of outstanding installation bugs. Both of these just need a little bit of research. I think this one will be really easy to fix. This one I need to stand up another VM and Fedora core and try and figure out what that is. I have a feeling it's PyCap and not using the right compiler or something. So those are most likely going to be trivial, and I can nail that down and release 0.22 soon. Most of the upcoming work that I foresee in the future from the community standpoint is continuing Windows build integration. All of these are assigned to me. So I have a lot of work to do on here, and I've been lagging behind, so my apologies. I've been in New York City most of this week, and a lot of other stuff has been coming up. So if anybody wants to help out on any of these or give me a push of what the priorities should be, that's fine. Monday morning, I'm going to jump on this and start plugging through these issues. I want to get this Windows stuff put together and get it working. really happy that NuPIC Core now has a Windows build, but we needed to work with NuPIC as well. So there's a bunch of dangling issues here. Some of them are not assigned, so if anybody wants to pick up some of these, they all are related to Windows stuff. Feel free to help me out. But a lot of these things are administrative tasks that I just have to plug through. There's not a whole lot I want to talk about here. There's work ongoing with clean builds. We've been merging PRs and creating new issues. I haven't put a big focus on this yet. I really want to continue focusing on the Windows stuff. Same thing with clean code. People have been working on that, and that's fine. So I'm happy with the way things are going. There hasn't been a ton of activity lately, which is okay, but we're still making steady progress.
What do you mean by clean builds and clean code?
So
I mean, everyone wants that. But
yeah.
For the milestone, what specifically?
I wanted to separate it out because clean code, in my opinion, is not like CMake stuff. It's not project dependencies. It's just about logic, algorithms, code logic, code dependencies. How does this extend that, or what is the hierarchy tree of different objects in the code? That sort of thing.
Does that include sort of removing dead code?
Yes, removing dead code, which is an effort that Mark's been making on the ASM stuff, which I'll hit when we look at open PRs. But the build stuff is like, is our setup.py doing the right thing? Does it make sense? Is it too complicated? Can we simplify it? Are the dependencies mapped out very clearly enough? Does our CMake build, is it clean enough? Are there too many environment variables? That sort of stuff. So it's broken out because there's a lot of different issues. I wanted to have some way of grouping them.
Yeah, and I guess part of my question was also, is it scoped in a way that there's an actual definite end to it? Because clean code could go on for a year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What is kind of what is not in that? Is there a tight kind of definition for 0.4 and 0.5?
There's not, and this is a deficiency in my plan. Scott points this out every meeting, so I've got to put a little thought behind how we're breaking out these versions and the milestones that are coming up. Because, point taken. I'm open to any advice anybody has on a better way to break this out. I mean, we could change clean build, clean code into labels in GitHub, and we could have more, what's the word? One after the other type of grouping for these milestones. I can't.
Dependency?
No, not a dependency. Just group them so it's not topical. The milestones are not necessarily topical. They're just sort of lines in the sand that we draw and say, once we get to this point, we think we're just going to release. So it's an evolving process. But yeah, Scott and you have given me that same feedback, and I haven't done anything about it yet. And I need to figure out a better way of separating this out.
We could discuss that on the hackers or commit group.
That's a good idea. So I'll make a note about bringing that up. Making a note now. Discuss on the hackers list different ways to break out the milestones so they're not so topical, because it doesn't really make sense. Even getting further down, we've got features. That doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
It's just a bucket that I'm throwing things in, and I know at some point we're going to get to it. So non-topical milestones. Okay. So I do want to hit some of these PRs. A lot of these pull requests are not in our core. Let me make this bigger. It's a little hard to. That's not much better. Okay. Some of these I know are still in Mark's court. Mark, you still have a lot of PRs that have gotten review or are not passing the build that are still just kind of hanging out there. So it would be a good idea, if you're going to put any effort into NuPIC development, to try and clean some of those up, because 6 months, 5 months, 3 months these are getting old and people are losing context on them. So we either need to maybe close them out and say it's not worth doing right now, maybe we can re-attack later, or try and figure out why the build is failing, or what the next step is. So I looked through these beforehand. I don't want to go through each one individually, but most of them are still in Mark's court to either address code review comments or get a build passing or move ahead in some fashion. I'm not going to go over the anomaly benchmark issues or the research issues here. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. We're still, David's still working on this remove obsolete implementations of ESP. And the last comment here is, I think, right, there's a build failure, it looks like. And this may be an error. But this was just a few days ago, so there's still progress being made on this. Jaden's left some comments, David is addressing them, so it's still ongoing work. I'm really kind of looking for things that are, held up with us, for the reviewers. I want to identify any of these that are.
Well, I know there's one that's waiting on me.
There is, yeah. I was going to mention that. Okay. Okay, this is also pitched over to Scott. Scott's out of the office until Wednesday, I think. So there's a few things on Scott, and with Scott, a lot of times I'll assign things to Scott and say, please review, knowing that or hoping that he will pass those off to other people as he sees fit, because he's an engineering manager here. These remove dead code were still. What was this? Remove dead code from NuPIC. What was the status of this? Yeah, so there's still discussion on this, but it looks like we were kind of stalled. This was 20 days ago. And the last comment was David to Scott, so these are the ones that I'm kind of looking for.
I don't think he's waiting on Scott. He's just
you guys review.
That's yeah. So I think it looks like David.
Oh, hold on a little bit before reviewing this. Okay, so I've been thinking about ways of identifying these a little bit better. So I'd like to have a list like this. Open PRs is useful, but not as useful as it could be. I'd like to have a list of like what was the last comment. That would be a lot easier to run through, so I don't have to open all of them. And then this also doesn't show any labels. I generally will label ready if there's something ready, and there's also a needs review, which is really kind of synonymous with that. So if you guys are creating PRs, tag it with ready or needs review, and that'll be helpful. But this one obviously is not ready. David said it wasn't. This, I think you created this, didn't you? No. This you created. No, never mind. This is something different. This was a report that from a tool that Mark ran. It was like some type of code scanning tool. But he says don't merge it yet. So obviously not ready. He's got this label just blocked. I keep thinking that this report needs to be a little more clear about which one of these need action. That's what I'm missing here.
So if you go to that bench tools one that's visible,
yes.
And this one is sort of revisiting a comment you made back for Mark. Argued this one and gave some specific items that needed to be addressed. I don't necessarily know that we need to wait for him to do it. I think anyone can potentially pick those up. They're pretty simple. They're just basically stuff to get it to the point where it is to a requirement. So if anyone's listening, I might even pick it up. But
yeah,
some of this stuff we don't necessarily need to wait for other people if they're just hanging out there for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Mark works in spurts, right? So he'll come in and put a good hard weekend on NuPIC stuff and then be gone for a month or so. So that's a good point. And it's a common practice in our world anyways. If you want to work on this pull request, as you can see, this is off of Bresnak's fork. Bresnak is Mark, and he's got a branch called Bench Tools. So you can check that out locally. and create your own branch called bench tools and create a pull request with your changes to this pull request, which is really kind of the best practice way of doing it. We think that because we don't have push rights into Mark's fork, so we can't push directly into this branch of his. But we can create a pull request to this pull request, which he can go review and accept or not. And if he likes some of it, he can make changes in his branch. So we do that sometimes, and I think it works out pretty well. But yeah, that's a good point, Austin. So those are the older ones. Most of these new ones are still, I'm not too worried about them. They're still being either discussed, avidly discussed. I think there's a lot of discussion on these anomaly ones and the metric ones between Mark and Jayton and Scott. So I'm just kind of letting those pan out. And then there's still a merge of NuPIC core into NuPIC that we're waiting on a build. So nothing too major. I really want to clean up some of these really old PRs, and especially the ones that are over a month old. So I'm kind of looking at you, Mark, if you're watching. Okay. So that was open source. David, I was going to go to you next. If you want to say anything about what you're working on in HTML Java, you can.
Okay. Hi. So right now, we kind of talked last time about this, but I've been ongoingly working on the network API, which is the method by which NuPIC algorithms are connected together in order to provide a higher level API in a more abstracted way to work with NuPIC and ease the interaction of it, for the developer. So that's going along pretty well. I've kind of been adopted by Cortical.io, and now, well, I work for them, but they've been really encouraging and supportive of the work I do on HTML.java. They don't pay me directly to work on it, but they have a vested interest in it, and they're very supportive and excited to help out. So they're kind of like sponsors of it now, in a way, stewards. And so by virtue of that, I've been able to spend a lot more of my time working on the network API. Mostly initially because I'm just getting integrated into their foreign work, their European hours and workflow. So right now we are finishing up the completion of nodes so that we can add algorithms into a node structure and have the input data go into have those combined into layers so that however many algorithms are included inside of a node, the data can be ushered through from the bottom to the top in a generic way, and Java has some really supportive mechanisms for doing things like that, and so that's about it, really. There's just the network API, and there's been a lot of progress on it, and hopefully we'll get that out to everyone soon, and we'll have a neat API to introduce developers to and help with things like, for instance, Subhatai mentioned from a talk that a lot of people are interested in using the Java version as a streaming mechanism, as a streaming client. Or with streaming clients, I should say. And so that all of that will be made possible, once this network API is pretty much complete. So that's about it. That's about it.
So I got a question for you. So I've noticed there haven't been any commits in HTML Java for a week, but you say you're working really hard on it.
Yeah, I've been committing to my own personal branch, but I haven't been cutting anything over because this work is it's a larger body of work, and I don't know how appropriate it would be to cut it over in parts when the different parts aren't really independently usable at the moment.
Yeah.
So I mean I've been kind of taking on smaller parts, in throughout the history of the project, and or doing bugs mostly, and those were more appropriate to cut over even in the middle of completion. But this is going to be pretty huge. I've got something like 15 classes right now that comprise the body of it, and and the state it's in right now, I don't think anybody would want to take a look at too much anyway. But you're also welcome. You can go to my private repository and you know send me encouragement or send me the other thing.
Well,
Everything.
I am a little concerned with having such a huge body of work, coming in like one huge pull request or something, because you probably still want to have a code review, especially if you're doing something as important as creating a network API. And who's going to do that code review?
I guess you, Matt.
That's what I'm concerned about. I would hope you can put some thought into how you can break it up into logical chunks to an extent where you have it working, or at least not broken within those. It'd be a lot easier for me or whoever to review if you could do that. And especially, I know I'm a little bit of a stickler about this, but I'm still a believer that every pull request should have a problem definition that defines what is being implemented or what the pull request is solving. And you might find that you're able to more logically define what you're doing if you try and do it that way. I'd certainly be a lot happier if you could issues for all of your PRs and break it up into several PRs instead of one big one. So something to think about.
I kind of have to do that for my work with Cortical IO anyway. I actually have a project in their project support software, and I have it broken up so I can maybe we can talk about this offline, and I can kind of move some of that over, and then yes, and go ahead and submit issues and cut over some of the code to make your job easier.
Yeah, and I don't mind it being messy. Open source gets messy and it gets chaotic, but it would be a lot harder for me to take one big thing that you've perfected and integrate it all at once, in my opinion, than just kind of piecemeal moving things in as you think they're good enough and can be improved over time as you continue to work. This is a live organic thing here, and people out there want to see you working. They don't want to see one huge thing coming in at one time. It's a lot easier to understand what you're thinking if you do it a little bit at a time. So I would encourage you to try and do that.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
I also have a question. When you did the algorithm stuff, you took a tremendous amount of care to make sure that it was really sort of exactly compatible with the implementation that we have in NuPIC in the C++ and Python algorithm implementations. And I was really impressed by the care you took there. With the network API, I think I feel a little bit differently. So my question is, are you trying to have that same level of close compatibility, or is it sort of compatibility in spirit, but the details are actually quite different and more sort of native Java-like? Or something, it's something completely different.
It I would like to say that it's a compatibility in spirit similarity.
Hmm.
I have.
And I think that's actually appropriate in this case. I think it would actually be wrong to, well, maybe wrong is too strong. I think it'd be really difficult to match it exactly because there's a bunch of assumptions in there that may not hold in your case.
Right, right. Um, well, it's early enough also where we can get more hands-on. I can probably use more hands-on feedback from you guys. That would be totally welcome. I sent out a I kind of sent out a kind of an announcement of the projected work that I thought that we might be doing. But so we can take a look at that and kind of have an ongoing review, as Matt suggested too. I mean, that would integrate into that kind of procedure a little bit more. That we could kind of take a look at the pieces and see how we're putting them together, and also I could get more fine-grained feedback. That would be great. But for the most part, I am, Java. One of Java's strengths is its networking. Uh, it's network, like the kind of patterns it supports in communication flow, and the kind of interactive object-oriented patterns that are supported with some well, with its basic library, and especially in Java 8 with the flows and with the Stream API. There's a lot of support for connections and connecting together, modules and things like that. And the Java 8, well, the API has had a lot of influence over my thinking in terms of how to create a network API, and I would love to, review some of that, and also to make sure that I keep on track, because that's always been a concern of mine also, to be as compatible with the Python version as I can be, so that that kind of broadens the ability for oversight in terms of maintaining a certain engineering standard, and adherence to the NuPIC algorithms. So we'll take a look at that too.
Well, you've got a lot of support in the NuPIC community. A lot of people are watching what you're doing and excited to have a Java library. So don't be afraid to use NuPIC hackers as a sounding board for your ideas, or just asking questions. How would you expect to use this? That sort of thing. It's a tool that you can take advantage of if you need to gather consensus or make a poll or whatever. It's up to you.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Okay. That's all I got. Unless anybody wants to talk about anything else, then that's a wrap. Okay, well, thanks for watching. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, thanks, David, for all your work on HTML Java. It's really exciting.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege. Believe me, it's a privilege. And thank you for all of the help and encouragement you guys have given me, because I definitely wouldn't have been able to to even think about doing this without all the help that you have given. So thank you.
Cool. Hey, okay, never mind.
Okay.
I'll take it off.
Okay. See.